Become a part of Oral's tribe. It's Oral time, the best time of the day. Listen carefully, what he has to say. It's Oral's
Hello guys, this is Orolf and a warm welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you one of the coolest builds for open world farming or Abyssal Verge that I've ever played. This is probably the most fast running build in the game, and as you can see in the intro, it's really crazy. And I'm going to explain to you now how it works. So let us first take a look at the skills. In the primary slot I use Frenzy, but I'm never gonna use it. I use Demoralize, Sprint, Furious Charge, and I also use Wrath of the Berserker. If we continue and take a look at the set pieces I'm using 4 pieces of V2 Surge. This is to prolong beneficial effect durations, but it's also to increase my attack speed. And the attack speed is very important for this build, because attack speed will allow us to move even faster. And I'm gonna explain to you how it works in just a little bit. I also use 2 pieces of Banquet of Ice, and this is just to increase damage a little bit. And finally, I also use 2 pieces of Baron to prolong harmful effects. And yeah, I'm gonna explain to you why I use this in just a little bit as well. If we continue here, we can take a look at my essences real quick. I use Whirling Howl, and what it says is that Demoralize now empowers your steps with wind, causing your movement to emit blasts every few yards that damage nearby enemies. So now if I use Demoralize, whenever I'm moving you will see this area of effect exploding around me, and any enemies within that area will be hit and take damage. If we look in the chest slot, I use Tall's Fervor, and what it says is that Furious Charge cooldown is reduced by 0.07 seconds, or 1.6 energy is restored for every yard you travel. And this is very great combined with the new pants called Indomitable Spirit, because what it says is that Furious Charge is now channeled, causing you to constantly run forward, damaging enemies you run through while being immune to knockback. So now if I use Furious Charge, you will see that I will start channel and run forward. And you can also see that the energy bar down there in the middle, it recharges a little bit the faster I move, thanks to the chest piece. And that's why I want to increase my movement speed even further, because if I can do it enough, I can run indefinitely with this skill. So we're gonna see that in action very soon. If we take a look at the shoulder slot here, I use Hell's Legacy. And this is an old essence, and what it says is that Sprint also leaves a trail of flames, dealing damage to enemies over 4 seconds. So whenever I use Sprint, you can see now that there is a track behind me with fire. So any enemy stepping into this fire will take damage. And the key here is that I want to be able to keep running, and I don't want to have to stop to kill anything. So I've been trying to build a setup that allows us to do so. If we look here in the first maintenance slot, I use Iron Tusk, and what it says is that when Demoralize hits an enemy, your critical hit chance increases by 7.6% for 3 seconds, and this can stack up to 3 times, so totaling 22.8%. In the first offense slot, I use Promise Sunrise, and what it says is that when Demoralize hits an enemy, your attack and movement speed increases by 9.5% for 3 seconds, up to a maximum of 28.5%. So this is also helpful to keep my attack speed high at all times. In the second maintenance slot, I use Lion's Mane, and what it says is that Demoralize now also detonates the wounds of nearby enemies, immediately resolving any continual damage effects. And remember that this is effects that has a harmful duration on the target. So for example, if we take the Sprint here, this leaves a ground effect, so this will not work with Lion's Mane, but I do use Viper's Bite here in one of the legendary gem slots. So whenever I deal damage to a target, I will inflict Viper's Bite, and thanks to this Lion's Mane I will resolve all the remaining dot damage. So often when I run through packs, they will just explode and die immediately thanks to this effect. Finally, in the second offhand, I use Sundered Legacy. You already know this essence as well by now, probably, but what it says is that Wrath of the Berserker now causes nearby enemies to burn. So whenever I use Wrath of the Berserker, you can see this fiery circle around me, and this will deal damage to any nearby enemy. So we can try to run around here a little bit. If I activate all the skills, you can see that now when I use Furious Charge, I move even faster thanks to sprint, and also thanks to increased size, so I can almost run indefinitely. But we're gonna take a look at the legendary gems, and thanks to them I will be able to run forever, because I will increase my attack speed even further. So I use Blood-Soaked Jade just for some extra damage. I use Roiling Consequence just for an extra dot and some critical hit chance. I use Entropic Well because this will increase the attack speed of skills a little bit, and the higher my attack speed is, the faster Furious Charge will be channeled, and thanks to that I will move even faster. So that's why I also use Grim Rhythm, because it gives me attack speed. I use Void Spark because it also gives me attack speed, and finally I use Wolfort, which also gives me attack speed. And as I mentioned, I use Viper's Bite just to apply a dot effect that I can resolve with Demoralize. And finally I use Trickshot Gem, and what it says is that your channeled skills consume energy 24% slower, and this means that I can have this uptime 100% on the Furious Charge. But it will not work here in this area, because in order for Void Spark and Wolfort and Grim Rhythm to work, I have to hit the target first. So let's go out into open world and see how this build performs in action. Here we are in Storm Point, and now we're gonna see the true power of this setup. And you will notice that we are running a lot faster now compared to what we were managing inside the Castle of Siranjar. And the reason for this is because of the legendary gems. So we have Entropic Well, we have Grim Rhythm, we have Wolfort and Void Spark. And you can see now that everything dies immediately thanks to the Demoralize explosion with the Viper's Bite. But if there are any mobs left behind, they will also die from the fire trail from the shoulder, thanks to sprint. So I just arrived here. It will take a little time for the spawn circle to be perfect, but now the mobs will start spawning, and now I can just keep running. And this is truly amazing. I have not been able to run this fast with the helicopter build as Monk. I've not been able to run this fast with the Crusader and the Dash Horse, I think. The only thing that this build doesn't have is any range, so you have to run to the packs to kill them. But you're running so fast that it doesn't really matter. You can see here that it's totally crazy. And it takes some practice because it runs so fast so that it's a little bit difficult to steer. But after some practice you will manage it. And yeah, it's really cool, it's super fun. Whenever you are in a party, the people in the party will be amazed by what they see. And I once was in a party with Usain Bolt and he couldn't keep up with me. So I would say that this is world record level when it comes to sprinting. And yeah, the Barb has been famous for being very fast at the launch of the game with the sprint ability. But there has been other classes that has surpassed it lately. But now with these essences we are able to once again be the fastest runner in Diablo Immortal. So I hope that you enjoy this build. And before we say goodbye, I'm just going to show you a few alterations to this setup that you can use depending on what your character looks like. In the first alteration I have replaced Wrath of the Berserker for Sunder, and I used the new shoulder because then Sunder will now empower your steps with magma, causing your movement to erupt with fire every few yards. and I recommend you to use this version if you deal too little damage. The purpose here is that we want to be able to run through the enemies without having to stop, and if you feel that you are struggling with that, this will help you to deal a little bit more damage, because the Sunder shoulder is also very good for this setup. The downside is that when we replace Wrath of the Berserker, our size will decrease a little bit, and when we are decreasing our size, we will also decrease our movement speed. It's not a huge difference, but yeah, it's still noticeable. In the next alteration, we are using Sunder as well with the new shoulder. And here we have to replace Sprint instead of Wrath of the Berserker. And when we replace Sprint, the only thing you have to do then is to stack the Abyssal Virtue fixes that increases your movement speed whenever you kill a monster. And I would probably say that this is maybe the strongest version of this build if you have the correct setup for it, because we will still be able to reach maximum movement speed without Sprint using this version. Finally, we also have a fourth alteration, and here we use the vanilla Wrath of the Berserker, and we use the helmet that increases the duration of Wrath of the Berserker, and we also use the shoulder that decreases the cooldown of Wrath of the Berserker whenever you critically hit the target. And what's good about the vanilla Wrath of the Berserker is that it will increase the attack speed more than other versions. So if you are able to utilize this version, we can then move even faster. But here we start having issues with not dealing enough damage, and we will sometimes have to stay around to kill everything. So for that reason, I don't really favor this one. And you can also see here that I use Cleave as well instead of Demoralize, since I'm not using the Demoralize helmet anymore. But this is just to showcase that we can increase our speed even further, because with the original version that I showed you, we are not reaching 100% attack speed, but that we can do with this version. So feel free to play around, and it's gonna be a very fun build, and as I said, you will wow a lot of people when playing it. So I really hoped that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have fun when you try this build out. And before we say goodbye, I want to wish you a very nice day or a very nice evening wherever you are. And to all of my clan members in Nyx, I would of course also like to say Voruk Nyx, Sholak Sol. So bye bye!
Guess who's back with some brand new content? Hit the bell button, maybe leave a comment. Oroth with the swagger, wanna see his game. Teach you all the secrets, it will be insane. Guess who's back with a brand new lesson? He will have the answer if you have a question. Oroth invites you to his awesome tribe. No more time to waste, it's time to hit subscribe. 1, 2, 3 is the land of our affection. 4, 5, 6 only aiming for perfection. 7, 8, 9 he is 10 out of 10. Subscribe and you will never miss a video again.